Chapters 18 and 19, Summary and Analysis. Summary. Following the tumultuous climactic events of Chapter 17, Nellie spends the next 12 years tranquilly raising Cathy. The child is a beauty, with her mother's dark eyes and her father's fair skin, delicate features, and golden hair. Like her mother, she is high-spirited, but lacking Catherine's wild nature. In her ability to form close attachments, she reminds Nellie of Catherine, but the child is gentle and thoughtful, like Edgar. Nellie does admit that Cathy is overindulged by Edgar and the servants, and so has a, quote, propensity to be saucy, unquote, and perverse. Living a reclusive life, studying at home with her father, and restricted to Thrushcross Grange at its adjoining park, Cathy grows restless, begging to be permitted to visit Penistone Crag, visible from her window. Since travel to Penistone would involve passing Wuthering Heights, Nellie and Edgar evade giving permission. Edgar receives word from Isabella that she is dying, and she wishes to make amends with her brother and deliver Linton to his care. Edgar leaves at once and is gone for 3 weeks. During this time, Nellie tries to keep Cathy amused by creating imaginary adventures for her to enact while riding her pony on the estate. Nellie is confident that Cathy will not go beyond the estate gates, but when she fails to return one day for tea, the first place Nellie thinks to look for her is Penistone Crag. Unable to reach Penistone on foot before nightfall, Nellie stops at the Heights, only to discover that Cathy is there, chattering to Hareton. Nellie chastises her for disobeying orders, telling her it is unsuitable for her to be in the house. Cathy is surprised. She has mistaken Hareton for the owner's son. Discovering she is in error, she assumes he is a servant and orders him to get her pony. Embarrassed, he curses, and when Cathy threatens to report him, Zillah reproves her, telling her that Hareton is Cathy's own cousin. Confused because Linton is the only cousin she has heard of, Cathy cries, leaving Nellie exasperated for having a well-kept family secret disclosed. On the way home, Cathy tells Nellie that on the way to Penistone, her dog got into a fight with one of Heathcliff's, and Hareton had come to her aid. Nellie extracts from her the promise that Cathy will not tell Edgar where she has been, explaining that he objects to, quote, the whole household, unquote, at the Heights. She warns Cathy that her father will be so angry he will fire Nellie for her negligence. Cathy promises not to tell her father. When Edgar arrives with Linton, Cathy is delighted to meet her real cousin. She and Nellie both are unprepared for the spectacle of Linton Heathcliff. On the very night of his arrival, Joseph appears to remove Linton to the Heights under Heathcliff's orders. Edgar prevails on Joseph to inform him of Isabella's request that Linton be raised at the Grange, but Joseph is adamant. Firmly, Edgar refuses to send the boy that night, telling him Heathcliff must wait until morning. Discussion and analysis. In these chapters, the members of the next generation meet. Immediately, Hareton is beguiled by Cathy. She convinces him to guide her to the, quote, fairy cave, unquote, and the shy, unsocial youth is riveted by her chatter. The unintended insult of her assumption that he is a servant momentarily brings his barbaric upbringing to the fore as he curses at her. When she cries, he is repentant, and brings her some puppies to play with. This contrasts with an earlier scene in which Isabella trips over him as he is engaged in hanging puppies by the neck. Cathy's effect on Hareton, as well as their future relationship, are foreshadowed by this event. Cathy also meets the pale and unpleasant Linton. Although a wretched character, Cathy treats him with the gentleness instilled in her by Edgar. Pity, and not genuine love, seems to be the motivating factor in her interest in him, since he does not seem hardy enough to make a good playmate. Her passionless pity serves to explain the relationships she develops with Linton in future chapters. Linton is heartily disliked by Nellie and patiently tolerated by Edgar. Accustomed to having his wishes catered to, he is peevish and insensitive to others. Despite Cathy's attentions, he is not really interested in her at all, and seems impervious to her beauty. Linton's self-absorption is so complete that he is aware only of himself. The reader is unsure how much of his sickliness is genuine, since he appears to be more coddled than ill. In contrast, Hareton is a robustly healthy young man, who, despite his social awkwardness, is sensitive to others. The reader recalls the kindness Hareton had shown to Lockwood, a virtual stranger. Certainly, he is prepared to dote on Cathy, and is genuinely concerned when he sees he has upset her. Even Heathcliff and Joseph, the two curmudgeons, treat Hareton with affection. Tension builds in the novel as the reader contemplates Linton's life with Heathcliff. We are also unsure about the direction Cathy's relationship with each of her cousins will take. Chapters 20 and 21. Summary and Analysis. Summary. Edgar warns Nellie not to let Cathy know that Linton will be living at the Heights. He fears she will insist on visiting him and thus meet Heathcliff. Linton is perplexed as to why he has to move to the Heights, since he has never heard of his father, and asks Nellie why he has not seen him before. Nellie quickly invents a tale that Heathcliff was too busy to visit, and Isabella never mentioned him to Linton because she didn't want him to miss his father. Heathcliff and Linton meet. Rudely, Heathcliff insults Isabella for not having told the boy he has a father. Linton is shocked at Heathcliff's manner. Nellie pleads with him to be kind to the boy, since he is all he has and is delicate. Laughing, Heathcliff says he will be very kind. He has ordered Hareton and all the servants to obey Linton's wishes. Despite Heathcliff's declaration that he despises the boy, he wants to fulfill his revenge. He will own the Grange on Edgar's death, as he already owns the Heights, and he wants the triumph of knowing his son will have Hindley's son working under him. Meeting a servant one day in town, Nellie learns that Linton's hypochondria isolates him from the others in the house. The servant describes him as demanding and whining, rebuffing Hareton's good-natured attempts to amuse him. 2 years later, on her 16th birthday, never celebrated since it is also the anniversary of Catherine's death, Cathy entices Nellie to a hill not far from Wuthering Heights, where they encounter Heathcliff and Hareton. Heathcliff charmingly invites Cathy into the house to rest. Nellie protests, but Heathcliff prevails. His scheme is for Cathy and Linton to become reacquainted, fall in love, and marry. Should they marry, Nellie points out, Catherine would inherit Linton's money when he dies, since he is clearly too frail to live long. However, Heathcliff informs her that she is wrong. Heathcliff will inherit his dead son's estate, giving him possession of Cathy's money and land. Nellie resolves never to allow Cathy the opportunity to visit at the Heights again. Pleased to see Linton again, Cathy is surprised to learn that Heathcliff is her uncle by marriage. She asks why her father has never spoken of him, and Heathcliff tells her Edgar thought him unfit to wed his sister, and is insulted that Heathcliff won her over his objections. To Heathcliff's disgust, Linton is too self-absorbed to converse with Cathy. She asks if it is indeed true that Hareton is her cousin. Heathcliff affirms this, and considers aloud how much pleasure he has in having moulded Hareton into the perfect instrument for his revenge. Since Hareton is intelligent, he suffers at the extent of his debasement, exactly as Heathcliff did in his youth. Furthermore, even though Linton is a weakling, he is Hareton's social superior. Even though Hareton has first-rate qualities, quote, they are lost, rendered worse than unavailing, unquote. Best of all, Heathcliff gloats, Hareton, who should by rights hate him, loves Heathcliff. His revenge on Hindley is complete and satisfying. The visit ends with Linton ridiculing Hareton for being illiterate. Hearing his social deficiencies enumerated to Cathy, Hareton retreats mortified. Nellie and Cathy return home, Cathy indignant at her father for barring Uncle Heathcliff from her life. The next day, Cathy confronts Edgar, only to learn his side of the feud. He describes Heathcliff's brutish treatment of Isabella, and Cathy, unaccustomed to anything but her own gentle rearing, is profoundly shocked. Edgar ends the discussion, asking Cathy to consider what he has told her and avoid further contact with the residents of the Heights. Drawn to Linton, however, Cathy defies her father and Nellie and smuggles a letter to him. A secret correspondence between the two flourishes until Nellie catches Cathy and confronts her. Hearing that Cathy imagines herself in love with Linton, Nellie threatens to show the letters to Edgar unless Cathy consents to having them burned. Cathy is distraught, but Nellie is firm. A note is sent requesting that Linton cease writing to Cathy. Discussion and analysis. The focal point of Chapter 21 is the delineation of Heathcliff's design for his revenge on Hindley. Everything has proceeded perfectly, according to plan, giving Heathcliff immense satisfaction at the exquisite symmetry of his design. He refers to Linton as, quote, tin polished to ape a service of silver, unquote, and to Hareton as, quote, gold put to the use of paving stones, unquote. He admits his revenge would be less sweet if Hareton were not inherently so fine a man. Thus is his debasement more than pity. Further, Heathcliff clearly empathizes with the young man, remembering how he too suffered the indignities he was forced to endure at Hindley's hands. Yet Heathcliff feels no guilt at how he has used Hareton, instead channeling his feelings for the boy into the sort of affection a master feels for his loyal dog. For Linton and Cathy, however, Heathcliff feels unmitigated loathing. He views them as embodiments of everything he dislikes about the Linton family. His son is in every way his antithesis, weak, foolish, pale and sickly. In Cathy, he sees nothing of Catherine, viewing her kindness and innocence as weaknesses inherited from Edgar. Chapters 18 and 19, Summary and Analysis. Summary. Following the tumultuous climactic events of Chapter 17, Nellie spends the next 12 years tranquilly raising Cathy's window. Since travel to Penistone would involve passing Wuthering Heights, Nellie and Edgar evade giving permission. Edgar receives word from Isabella that she is dying, and she wishes to make amends with her brother and deliver Linton to his care. The child is a beauty, with her mother's dark eyes and her father's fair skin, delicate features, and golden hair. Like her mother, she is high-spirited, but lacking Catherine's wild nature. In her ability to form and perverse. Living a reclusive life, studying at home with her father, and restricted to Thrushcross Grange at its adjoining park, Cathy grows restless, begging to be permitted to visit Penistone Crag, visible from her close attachments. She reminds Nellie of Catherine, but the child is gentle and thoughtful, like Edgar. Nellie does admit that Cathy is overindulged by Edgar and the servants, and so has a, quote, propensity to be saucy, unquote.